The Pentacon Auto 50mm F1.8. This was originally not going to be the next lens I put on my review list. But seeing some of the photos being posted on a vintage lenses on modern camera group I am in, I kept seeing one name popping up on my feed. The Pentacon Auto 50mm and the Pentacon Electric 50mm. This lens can be described in a short description for me. Dynamite in a small metal lens. My copy has an incredibly stiff focusing ring, which makes it less than ideal for the M42 mount. But it does have a metal focusing ring, which is something I really enjoy. There are quite a few versions of the 50mm Pentacon, but I suspect I might have a copy of the second iteration, which has two silver rings at the front, but no stripes on the aperture ring. Unfortunately, I think my copy has lost the front silver ring as it has seen better days. Now onto the performance of the lens. The lens can focus extremely close. I think with a macro adapter, the lens can be converted into an extreme macro lens. The lens is a bubble monster. If you're looking for a bubble lens, this lens is it. Almost every photo I have taken with this lens has bubbles somewhere in the bokeh. Now I want to introduce someone to the videos. This is Brian. He's going to be my stand-in model going forward for the photos. As you can see in the photos, there are a ton of bubble bokeh in the background. Especially on the specular highlights, this lens just loves to create bubble bokeh. Stopping the lens down will give you some pentagon-shaped bokeh in the background. Still, I think this lens should work great for portraits. Just make sure the background isn't super busy, otherwise you will be having bokeh bubbles everywhere. Now, something I was wondering about is a comment I read somewhere that said you needed a full frame sensor for the bokeh to pop. This is something I am wondering about, as I want to get a Fuji X-T5 if it somehow gets released in South Africa. So the following is taken by my Canon 6D and my Canon 7D. Full frame and cropped sensor. Now I would be lying if I said there wasn't a difference. But it's so minimal I can't really tell a difference without some extreme pixel peeping. Both bodies generate great looking photos, but I will have to admit, the full frame looks like it generates more bubble bokeh in the corners. But still, very usable photos on a crop sensor body. Then there's the same focus test. I didn't change the focus of the lens and here is the results. The full frame sensor has a lot of bubble bokeh in the background, but the 7D isn't far behind. Granted, the focus is a lot closer as it should, but still, if you are scared you won't get bubble bokeh due to a crop sensor, I think it's safe to say that is not a problem. So, in short, the pros of the lens. Build quality. I really appreciate the Pentacon Auto 50mm F1.8's build quality. It's like dynamite in a small metal lens, with a solid metal focusing ring that feels great. Close focusing ability. It's incredibly versatile for macro photography, and I imagine it would work wonders with a macro adapter. Bubble bokeh. This lens is a bubble bokeh monster. Almost every shot I take has bubbles, especially when there are specular highlights. Compatibility with different sensors. I've tested it on both my Canon 6D full frame and 7D crop sensor, and while the full frame does produce a bit more bubble bokeh in the corners, the photos from both bodies look great. The crop sensor still gives me plenty of usable shots. Effective for portraits. Despite the strong bokeh, I think this lens works great for portraits, as long as the background isn't too busy. Otherwise, you might end up with bokeh bubbles everywhere. Then the things I didn't like. Stiff focusing ring. Unfortunately, my copy has an incredibly stiff focusing ring, which makes it less than ideal for the M42 mount. It's definitively something I struggle with during shoots. Limited bokeh on crop sensors. While the lens works on crop sensors, the bubble bokeh effect is definitively more pronounced on the full frame sensor. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something I've noticed. Too many bubbles. When shooting portraits, if the background is too busy, the lens tends to create too much bubble bokeh, which can be distracting in some compositions. On the whole, the Pentacon 50mm F1.8 can be considered bubble dynamite in a small lens. As I said in previous videos, I love unique bokeh and bubble bokeh, so this lens is a winner for me. I just wish the lens had a service, as the stiff focusing ring is annoying. On the whole, I give the Pentacon 50mm F1.8 a 8 out of 10. A solid lens. If you're looking for bubble bokeh, this lens has it in spades. But sometimes it can be a bit overkill.